Hello and welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and today I want to do a top 10 worst Walking Dead universe episodes that we got in 2021, because we are getting a lot of Walking Dead content now with lots of shows. Like World Beyond might have ended this year, but we're getting like more content, more shows coming out, and we could probably do this carrying on. So from now on there's going to be end of year top 10 episodes, because this year we had 40 plus episodes come out in the Walking Dead universe, and we're probably going to get more similar things like that going forwards. Now let's get right into my list, and in the 10th place is Fear the Walking Dead season 7 episode 5, and this one's quite shocking to be on this list because I originally reviewed this one as a good episode. However, it is a part of the massive chunk of filler we got in the first half of season 7. This is the Dwight and Sherry episode. I liked the episode, kinda, however, I really didn't like how it progressed none of the story, and a lot of season 7 progressed none of the story, but I feel like this is the worst because this is completely bottle. We can do without this episode. The only thing that's relevant in this episode is the final minute when they meet up with Alicia, basically. Everything else is just filler, and it's not very good character development as well. Like, I mentioned this in my review, I didn't like how they regressed Dwight to be still about Negan, and Sherry's still hung up on Negan. And it's been like a year or two, and they're on the other side of the country and they're still like this. I just really didn't like how they were still around this one character who isn't even on the show. I don't know why they keep doing it. Imagine people who only watch Fear the Walking Dead. They wouldn't understand it. This episode relies a lot on The Walking Dead, and it's just not a very good episode just because it's 100% filler. Moving to 9th place, we have World Beyond Season 2, Episode 9. This episode was good in some places, however, I feel like the pacing's really bad this episode. It's meant to be the second to last episode, and it is just build-up for more build-up in the final episode. And this episode is kind of ruined a little by how bad the final episode was. I just really like this episode because not much happens. It is just build up, and they have big moments in this episode that executed really badly, like Percy's death. I think that was executed badly. Huck's betrayal of Jadis, that was executed badly. It was a lot of bad executions of big moments and just build up. Like, nothing much happens in this episode, and it's slightly boring other than one or two moments, and it's a shame because the previous episodes were really good, and you had this episode which is a big disappointment. And that's why it's on this list. It's just a massive disappointment, and it's just build-up. It's not very fun to watch. In 8th place is another Fear the Walking Dead episode, and this is Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 16. Reason why this is on the list is because everything is very convenient in this episode. So Episode 15 is really good. You have the nukes go off. And then Episode 16, everyone magically finds shelter. It's really annoying how everyone finds shelter. Like Strand running away. No, he couldn't have gotten away too far. I calculated he ran for about 10 minutes at most. Let's say he tried to get out. He was on the horse at 8 minutes. Horses can only go about, I looked, it was like about maybe 20 kilometers or something like that. He's like maybe 10 to 20 miles at the furthest away from one of the nukes. Okay? And somehow he escapes it. Like, I know they explained it like weather, but it's just very convenient how all characters survive the nukes, and that just really annoys me how everyone conveniently survives the nukes, and it ruins the episode for me. I feel like some people should have died when no one did. It makes more sense if people died, and this is in 8th place because of how convenient and lazy the writing was in this episode. Going to 7th place is The Walking Dead World Beyond Season 2 Episode 10. The whole reason why the season finale of World Beyond is on this list is because it doesn't feel like a season finale. It just feels like the end of a season that's readied up for season 3. That's what it feels like. It feels like there should be another season on top. However, this is meant to be the last episode ever, and it just was really bad. Didn't deliver anything to be like, this is the final season. Here is some payoff. There was no payoff. The pacing was bad. The moments are really bad, like Elton getting his arm bit off. Bam! We're going to go right over that. We're not going to focus on that because the child actors can't hold a scene. It was really bad. It focused on the kids, which is really bad. No one likes to focus on the kids. Huck and Jadis was good. However, Jadis making the decision to do some things was annoying. I just didn't like some things. It was just a lot of bad things and some good things. The worst bit is it didn't feel like a season finale. It didn't feel like the end of the show. and that is why it is on this list. And in 6th place is The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 4. This is the Daryl focused episode. The reason why it's here is because it is very boring. Nothing much happens. We get introduced with Pope this episode, which is cool. However, Daryl didn't carry it. It is very boring. It didn't help that it had a subplot. It felt like a subplot. This episode just felt like a subplot, and it wasn't. It was just whole focused on Daryl, when I feel like Daryl should have been a subplot to another stronger story. It wasn't a very good story. I feel like it was drawn out, and it just wasn't fun to watch. It didn't look good. Like, this was the first episode, in my opinion, that just looked bad in The Walking Dead Season 11, just because it was all in the dark, it was all in these tight spaces, and it just wasn't very cool. Like, Pope wasn't that interesting, the Reapers weren't that interesting, and it really ruined the episode and made it really boring when you had a lot of characters that weren't that interesting to look at or talk to or anything. It just wasn't a very strong episode, and it's one of the weaker ones in Season 11, I think, and Season 11 is a really bad season. Now we are in the top 5, and in 5th place is World Beyond Season 2 Episode 1. The whole reason why this is on this list is because it focuses on the kids. Nothing happens as well. Like, the only good things for this episode is Elizabeth, and she carries this episode in my opinion, and that's why it's lower down than I would have liked. It's just because, oh, Elizabeth was in it. I enjoyed all the episodes that Elizabeth was in. But other than Elizabeth, this episode was really boring. It focuses a lot on Iris, a lot on Hope, and it was just, like, you didn't like it. It wasn't fun to watch. Characters made stupid decisions, and because it focused so much on the kids, there was no enjoyment, and I just really hated the episode because it focused on the kids. Like, this one focused a lot on Hope, with her trying to escape the town, then giving up and going back, and Elizabeth was there to pick up bits, but other than Elizabeth, this episode was just really boring, really annoying to watch, and just aggravating. Now, in 4th place is going to be Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 8. Whole reason why this episode's here is because it is just filler. And the thing is, it's the whole issue with the first half of Season 11, and this is the peak of it. So the reason why this one's on the list is because it's build-up on top of build-up. Because Episode 7 was just build-up for the big fight in Episode 8. And then this episode does the same. And you're like, come on, you got Maggie and Negan doing absolutely nothing since Episode 3, and they've been building up for this big fight, and then the big fight happens, and it ends on a cliffhanger. And the weird thing is, it's such a bad cliffhanger, and that ruins it for me. So the cliffhanger is Maggie and Negan are being fired at with rockets, and it ends there. And we both know that they're both going to be fine somehow. Some magic thing's going to happen, and they're both going to survive in Episode 9 at point blank range with rockets. And you're like, wow. And it's annoying that they're moving the stretch in the Reaper arc. This episode is ruined just because the Reaper arc's been stretched to another episode when it could have ended. Also, Pope's death was absolutely terrible. Daryl did nothing. It's a lot of characters that did nothing, and they continue to do nothing. And I really didn't like the Reaper arc, and this is the peak of why the Reaper arc is bad. It's just because it was paced so slowly. It's so boring, and nothing much happens. It's just them being whisperers, going in there, and nothing much happens. You expect this to be the end of the Reaper arc, but no, it isn't. It's just very boring, not very fun. And I really didn't like it because of the cliffhanger, the lack of deaths, and how they got rid of Pope, which was so stupid. In 3rd place is World Beyond Season 2, Episode 2. The reason why this is worse than Episode 1 is because, guess what? Elizabeth is in it less, and guess what? It focuses on Iris, and guess what? I can remember literally nothing that happens in this episode. I had to go rewatch reviews and rewatch the episode, and man, it was bad. So, this is even more kid-focused. The pacing is terrible. The story gets progressed nothing at all. Like, there's no progression in the story. Like, the first 5 episodes have the same issue. Like, there's no progression in the overall season story in this episode. And I feel like it's one of the worst episodes because it has no progression in the story. It focuses on Iris. It's just boring. And I really don't like the episode just because how bad and all the stupid decisions happen. It's not a very good episode. Now, in 2nd place is Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 20. This is the princess episode, and this episode is bad. Like, I normally rewatch episodes when I watch them all when they come out, and then I binge it later on. When I binged Season 10 again, I skipped this episode because I couldn't put myself through it again. It's boring. It's just princess in a truck doing nothing for 45 minutes. It is just really boring. It's not very interesting. There is like no Walker kills. It's just boring. She's senile and crazy. And it's just a really bad introduction to the common role. Like, this is a terrible introduction to the new villains. And it's just like, wow. Thanks for wasting 45 minutes of my time. That's what it feels like. I really hated Princess after this episode. However, season 11 fixed it, and she's now like immediately one of my favourite characters. However, she was just butchered in this episode. The plot was moved forward like 2 inches for this episode, but this could have easily been like a plot C or something, or a plot D other thing, or they could have made this like the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But no, it was a whole episode of her in a car just talking to herself. I know they did it during COVID. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have done the 6 bonus episodes, because a lot of them were just filler and they weren't very good, and this is the worst. And this is my statement, like, oh, the 6 bonus was terrible, look at this. But then the Negan one, which is good, it's just, they could have made it good, but they chose not to, obviously. I just really didn't like it. Like, the plot twist that everyone is imaginary and Princess is insane. Wow. Totally saw that coming. It's just the pacing's bad. It doesn't look too good. It's not fun. Like, if they gave us a different character to focus on in this, like a character we were already connected to, maybe like Eugene or Yumiko or Ezekiel, this episode would be better. It's just we focus on a character we don't know for 45 minutes and had them talk to themselves. Wasn't very fun, and that's why it's number 2 on this list. It was just a really boring episode. The soldiers were really bad. It was just a bad episode. We are now here at the worst of the worst. And wow, was that you were able to guess? Yes, it is World Beyond again. And it is The Walking Dead World Beyond Season 2 Episode 3. This is the worst episode of 2021, in my opinion, just because the plot doesn't move forwards. And guess what? It focuses on 2 characters that are just boring and add nothing to the story. Like, I hate Iris, however, Iris adds stuff to the story eventually. She has a purpose in the show. Percy and Elton, however, do not have any purpose, and it focuses on those 2 characters. Like, it could have been a B plot, these 2 characters, but no, they had the whole episode to themselves, and it was very boring. Like, we did get foreshadowing about Elton being bitten, however, that was handled very badly in episode 10. It was just very boring. Not much happens other than Elton and Percy make it back to Iris. That is it, and it sets up for a better episode right at the end, with Percy trying to kill Huck in episode 4. And episode 4 is an okay episode because it's a very Huck-focused episode. However, that's the only good thing about this episode, is it sets up episode 4. It's just very boring, paced very badly. The characters are very not interesting. Good points for having less Iris, however, less Iris is not always good, because we have Percy and Elton, which are just together just really annoying, because I don't like either of the characters because they do nothing. It was just a very boring episode that focused completely on just these 2 characters. And I was looking at my watch the entire time. This episode is just bad. But what did you think? Do you think there's any other episodes that deserve to be on the top 10 worst episodes of 2021? Or do you think these are the worst episode of 2021? Please tell me down below. And if you want more content, feel free to subscribe. And look on the screen for more videos. I recommend you do, because you will find something else you like. But this is it for me today. So goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you later.